I think I just heard her walking in.
There she is.
There we
When
go.
he calls, I talk to him. All right, we're on. Sorry. I've heard this before, so I thought maybe John just
That's
started.
right.
I thought you
You know,
started without me.
you
You've
must
been
have, you must have read our minds in here. That Holly has seen this before. Okay, thank you for allowing us to present what I would classify as the state of the business for our visitor services unit. And it's going to be rather short, sweet, and to the point. We're going to talk, first of all, about the numbers through the first half of the year. And I realize we are nearing the end of October, and I am anticipating 3Q results any day now. So I don't anticipate whatsoever that 3Q numbers will be any different than what you'll see here for the first half of the year. But basically, when you boil it all down, we look at two things. Gross rents, which we will look at today, and this is the entire bill for a customer. Say I'm staying overnight at Fred's Lodge. I come in, this is tax title out the door, this is gross rents, okay? First half of the year, $2.2 million. For the first half of the year, eclipsing our 2012 and 2013. Or as a matter of fact, I made mention the other night about these numbers being off the chart. They are truly off the chart. So, what is this combined of? Well, you know, we understand that we bring in visitors. We understand that the pipeline company brings in their workers. We understand the impact of Heidelberg and Tiffin University, but all in, I've never seen a number of even closely approaching $2.2 million. So, well done on behalf of everyone. Okay?
Can you, because of the pipeline, there is a lot out, can you, I wonder if there's any way of extracting that out?
No, but what I did, on lodging tax revenues, first half 2014 normalized. The reason I say normalized, because someone can easily say, oh, well, your lodging tax has gone up because you tacked on an additional 1% at the beginning of the year, all right? I extracted out that 1%, so you're looking at truly apples to apples when it comes to lodging tax revenues. And once again, these numbers are absolutely off the chart. And they're stated at a 2% level rather than a 3% level.
Just one thing on that, Fred. Some of the people who are staying here aren't necessarily working on this pipeline. Some of them have come from, that are working up in Sandusky and places too. So we've enticed some of those workers who are working in other counties to stay here.
Wonderful.
So, you know,
Hotel, motel, people are gonna love you.
oh, they do. Bottom line is, our hotels are filled. They are filled to capacity. And on any given night in Santa Fe County, and I mentioned this in our meeting last week, you are hard pressed to find a room. Who would have thought that?
Yeah.
You know? Okay, well, what do we do to generate this kind of activity? Okay. Facebook visitors, we utilize Facebook a lot. And when you take a look at the September numbers, 3,807 Facebook visitors, that took me by surprise. So I had this run by several people who know this business on Facebook a whole lot better than Carol and I. And yes, this is a solid number. Well, why is that so? Well, what happened in September? We had Jazz Festival, right? We had Heritage Festival. Two of the biggest draws for the entire year. So this number, well, on first blush may seem, I don't believe that. Believe it.
Well,
Believe
the
it.
colleges are back in session.
Absolutely,
You know.
absolutely. So a lot of good things happening in September. Next. Okay, reader responses. This is where a reader on Ohio Has It, which is the statewide publication, requests more information. So again, in September, the number is off the chart. These are folks that say, hey, tell me more, tell me more, tell me more. Okay? Phone calls. 284 phone calls we fielded in September, and once again, it reflects all of the activity the whole Tell Me More story about what's going on in Tiffin and Seneca County. And website visitors. I'll tell you, Facebook is almost taking over the activity. We're finding fewer website visitors. However, there's still an awful lot, 1,317, again, reflective of the summer months and what's going on, particularly July, August, and September. So these are the visitors that hit the website. Again, it's a whole Tell Me More story. And speaking of Tell Me More, let's talk about the good things that we've done over in Fostoria for the year.
Over in Fostoria this year, we brought 2 buses over. They've had other tours beside the 2 buses, but they came from Michigan, and they thoroughly enjoyed it. They went to see the depot, the Foster Annex, the glass place, took them to show them the bullets that were in the bank building from Dillinger, and had them eat at 3 different places. And so things are really going great over there. And there are days that they have at least 100 visitors to the rail park. And on Labor Day, they had like over 1,000.
It's amazing. So if there were concern about how you're going to support Fostoria, that's not a concern at all. They love us. Okay. We had commissioned an economic impact of tourism study for Seneca County, Ohio. First time it's been done in Seneca County. Lots of other counties do it. We never had the money to do it, but we felt strongly that we needed a benchmark as to visitor services and the impact. So, total tourism impact, total sales generated by tourism annually is almost $80 million. Wages, 25.8, almost $26 million in wages generated. Taxes, almost $11 million. And the impact on employment is 1,529 jobs. So that is significant. If people say, you know, tourism has no impact in Seneca County, I would debate them all day long. Next. Tourism is an integral and driving component of Seneca County economy, sustaining 7.4% of salaried employment, generating business sales, as I said, of nearly $80 million. Directly and indirectly, we'll talk about direct, indirect, and direct and indirect and imputed business. Tourism is a diverse component of economic activity, including transportation, recreation, retail, lodging, food and beverage sectors. We'll see the sectors that impact tourism. Let's talk about direct economic value. That is, let's say, again, Fred has a restaurant. I come in and I spend $10 with Fred. That is direct impact. Indirect, I come in and spend money with Fred, but Fred, in order to keep that restaurant business going, has to pay electric, has to pay his suppliers, has to pay other types of things to allow him to do business with me. That is called indirect. Imputed is when I come in and I spend my money, Fred pays his people a salary, and that person then goes out and spends money directly in the local economy. That's imputed. Okay? We just went through the example of what it means. All right, here's the output. Visitors generated almost $80 million in business activity in Seneca County in 2013. And you can see the direct, indirect, and I said imputed, I meant induced, excuse me. So 52 million in direct, 14 million in indirect, and almost 13 million in induced economic impact. Tourism employment, 1 in every 14 jobs in Seneca County supports tourism. Okay, and you can see the direct, indirect, and induced numbers there. Tourism income, generated personal income of almost $26 million in 2013 in those economic sectors. And of course, taxes. Tourism generated $10.8 million in taxes in totality, $5.6 million in state and local, Of that 3.2 million in state, 2.4 million in local taxes. And that's the end of the show. Okay?
Thank you for coming.
You bet. Thank you for listening.
John, refresh my memory. I know last year that they raised the tax and that went to the Visitors Bureau, and you were, if I recall, you were talking about doing some advertising and some
Oh,
TV
yeah.
things, and
Did
those things come to fruition? Because if it did, and
We
with
did.
results like that,
We
boy,
did,
that's something you want to continue.
we did our commercial in the 2,500 spots through, it will be through the mid-November across the state, in every market across the state. So we had all of that cooking. Tell us about the other activities
Well,
in terms of,
okay, for the state commercials, we did all the big cities. And then we also did, ODOT gave ADRAC the right to do the centers. So we did all, of course, we have to pay now, before it was free. So we did all the centers, and we took down thousands of brochures, and we got a call that they only had one box left. So we had to send
50,000.
more down. We actually, next year, anticipate making more visitors guides because we're down to nothing. Then we also did, Ohio Pavilion is a group that does big shows, and they're expensive shows that we can't necessarily go to because of our budget. So it's a small fee that we pay, and like at the Ohio State Fair, our brochures were there. We have 3 exits on the turnpike where we have our visitors guides. And then any of the big shows and things that we could take them to, we do. For the reader response that you saw, we send everybody a visitor's guide. I really think that a big help was getting the ODOT centers back opened up, so because there's so many people that travel on the 4-lane highways. And I think the commercials, I mean, we had people who came from Cleveland who said they never realized they were as close to us as they were, and they stayed here. I mean, there was someone that I talked to in my shop, and they stayed here 3 days and went all through Seneca County and thoroughly enjoyed it. So that it is paying off. It's a little harder to track the commercials, because unless the people tell you that they've seen the commercial and are here, so it's a little harder to track how effective they are. But I think a lot of it has been a consistent marketing to different target markets, and being consistent and not just doing something for 1 week, because the commercials ran from April 15th to November 15th. And we did that because of the traffic, you know, with the bad weather. January, February, March, people weren't doing much traveling, so we thought that we'd start them in April. But I think just being consistent and doing the Facebook, the Twitter. We just did an ad, you know, they say to put your post on for a week for, we did it for the glass show coming up. And it was for a whole week, and we got to name the target market, and we said the United States, and in 1 week, we had 5,606 people on that Facebook, and I just got the final bill, and it cost us $25.38.
Fred, we're also supporting and shooting a commercial for the Tibbins Winterfest too. So that will air in the Toledo markets, Erie markets, Huron markets, and Sandusky County markets. We also landed our first national convention. The National Depression Glass Association has selected Tiffin to be the site of their 2016 convention. That will bring over 1,000 people into this community during the month of July. We'll be holding it at the Heminger Center. We announced that at last week's meeting. We also have a national convention next year, 2015, the National Postmark Convention. And you say, what's with postmarks? It's amazing the amount of people that are interested in postmarks. So that will be coming to Tiffin as well. So we're doing a lot with what we have. We are very careful about how we spend money, but I can assure you it doesn't sit in the bank. We spend every dime in support of tourism in Seneca County.
I know at the time that there was some objection with some of the local hotels and so forth, but you have certainly proven that, what was it, 1 or 2% that we put on, that extra tax was put on was a wise investment.
Yes, it was.
And it's like the old adage, and I understand what you're saying, it's like you go to trade shows and you wonder, boy, did you really get anything out of it? The fact is next year your business is better than this year, don't change anything, just keep.
Well, it's important too that we did a baseline study, that economic analysis. So we will be doing that every other year to see how we move the needle.
Tremendous, tremendous.
Thank you
Thank
for all
you.
your work.
If I could pat you in the back, I would. Get an attaboy. Attagirl.
Well, I heard this at the chamber board meeting, and since then, you've added obviously another month or two it or whatever, but I said we need to have you come in and talk about that and whatever else additional, so you could hear it. Good stuff.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
We're still in work session. Did anyone else want to talk about anything in work session? Kathy?
Good morning, how's
morning.
everyone?
Great.
I'm here to introduce to you my new workforce administrator. This is Mike McLean.
Nice to meet you.
Welcome,
Mike.
Mike.
Mike comes from our child welfare arena, and he's been a supervisor for us for several years, one of our strongest supervisors, actually. So Carol Owen, who all of you know is still with us, about 3 years ago, we had the good fortune to work with Steve Anway as a business consultant, and it really helped us in our workforce services work better with businesses. The grant did not continue, and since that time, Carol and I have been talking about how we could accomplish that. So we felt we were in a situation where we could post a business consultant, and she's also going to help me a little bit with policy. So she's moved into that role, and Mike has stepped into the workforce administrator role. So we're really excited about that. We look forward to working with you. And I don't know. I just wanted to introduce him so you knew who he was.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think
Welcome.
we were very happy with our youth worker this year. I think that worked out well for us, so
Excellent.
hopefully that
Excellent.
program will happen again next year.
Well, we actually talked to Director Dungy of ODGFS and requested that the summer youth program be put in the budget as a line item instead of just every year deciding if we were going to have it or not.
Yeah.
So we're hopeful. She seemed receptive to that. We also talked to her a little bit about possibility of a year-round program, and I think we're talking about that at our agency, doing that with some of our TANF funds. So we're excited about that as well. If you're not recalling all the programs that Mike will supervise, it's things like that we talk about getting folks off benefits and into the work arena. These would be people on food assistance. He also oversees fraud, childcare, net transportation, which is Medicaid transportation for folks, and of course workforce, the OMJ Center. So, yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. Anything else for work session? Any, about you guys, anything to talk about? If not, we'll have a brief recess before we go into regular session at our advertised and listed time of 10 o'clock. Okay, we'll recess until 10.